All right, man, peace. So, the United States Peace Corps is an organization that was formed in the early 60s by President John F. Kennedy, allegedly to promote goodwill all across the world between the United States and many of the countries, predominantly third world countries all across the world. Well, they've been hit with a sex abuse scandal, particularly pertaining to their female members who allege that they've been the victims of sexual attacks and that they've been victim blamed by many of the higher ups at the Peace Corps. Of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
A government watchdog says the Peace Corps is failing to do enough to protect volunteers from sexual assault. The percentage of women in the Peace Corps who say they've suffered a sexual assault rose to 38% in 2016.
Wow, look at that. 38% of the females in the Peace Corps say that they've been the victims of sexual assault. That's unbelievable. Imagine any organization, any corporation that had 100 women and 38% of those women, or 38 out of the 100 women, stated that they were raped or touched unwantingly in some way. That's incredible. That tells you that the Peace Corps is not properly training these females to understand what they can expect when they get over to these different areas, to these different countries. And that's predominantly based in the fact that most of the females, if not all of the females that would sign up for something like the Peace Corps, are most likely very liberal. The liberal female believes that because she can walk up and down throughout America and do whatever she wants, that she can do the same thing in other countries. In many of these other countries, they will show most of these liberal females what disrespect to women is really about. They make videos here in America about men, quote unquote, catcalling or whistling at females. And then they go to a quote unquote, allegedly third world country, and they'll go to help a family and get raped by the patriarch in the house, and they can't do anything about it. You know why? Because the United States needs the Peace Corps to maintain a presence in these various countries, because they have undercover operatives sprinkled into the Peace Corps in every country. And these other countries know about that too. So the last thing that the United States wants is for the Peace Corps to be an organization that is associated with whistleblowing or reporting some unseemly activity between their female members and the quote unquote indigenous or aboriginal people across the earth, because they need to have a presence in these countries, because many of these people in the Peace Corps are acting as spies. Some of them are undercover, and that's known.
That finding came in an anonymous internal survey. In 2015, a whistleblower spoke to CBS This Morning about her belief there was a culture of victim blaming inside the Peace Corps. She said it prevented some sexual assault survivors from getting help. Her complaint launched a lengthy investigation. The results only recently became public. Currently, about 7,300 Peace Corps volunteers serve in 65 countries.
Look at that. They're in 65 different countries. And what do you think they're doing there? Right? They're gathering intelligence. They're laying the groundwork. They're trying to appraise what the overall cultural mores are of the people, what their morale is like. That is how you run an empire. You have to have your people stationed everywhere, even when the indigenous people there don't know. And a lot of times they do know. They have suspicions. And that's why when they encounter many of these liberal females, they take advantage of them. This is why I mention the mentality of the liberal woman on my channel a lot, because even though they think that they're projecting an image of self-empowerment to the men across the world, when they see females saying that they could dress how they want and do what they want, all that resonates to them as is, this person is a whore. That's all it resonates to them as. So when you decide that you're going to be a super liberal woman and you say, I'm going to join the Peace Corps and quote unquote make a difference across the world, I'm going to go to Zimbabwe, or I'm going to go to, some country in Southeast Asia, or some country that they would call a third world country. And you get into a situation where it's just you and a strange man. That man has thoughts that are rumbling around in his head about what you're really about as a female, as a woman. They'll say to themselves, why would this woman travel all the way across the world to come, quote unquote, help me when she should be at home with her man? That's what's going on in their mind. That has to be what's going on in their mind for 38% of the females in the Peace Corps to report that they've been the victims of sexual assault. That is an abomination. That's abysmal. And then on top of that, the Peace Corps refuses to acknowledge that many of these females have been the victims of sexual assault. That tells you that the basis for the Peace Corps, the reason for their existence, is more than meets the eye. It must be that it's a low-level intelligence gathering agency. That's the only thing that I could think of as to why it would take this long for this to be an issue. And they've already been accused of that. It's not a secret. There was a situation that they had in Nigeria years ago where the student union for one of the major universities in Nigeria claimed that the Peace Corps was there to establish neocolonialism. That's what they stated. In other words, they were there to try to influence the people to become more like America.
Chris Van Cleve is outside Peace Corps headquarters in Washington, D.C., and joins us. Chris, good morning.
Good morning. That Peace Corps Inspector General report found cases where the agency failed to provide a compassionate and supportive response to survivors of sexual assault. And that's despite the fact there were congressionally mandated reforms in place that were supposed to prevent a situation like this from happening.
On my first day of teaching, that was when my sexual assault occurred.
On your first day?
My first day.
Wow, they wasn't waiting. They wasn't waiting at all, huh? I mean, damn, your first day of class, they couldn't even let you get accustomed to the area before they raped you? I mean, damn.
It was March 2016. Peace Corps volunteer Megan Reithmiller was teaching in Uganda. She says that night the school priest came to her door with a gift.
I'm sure he did come to her with a gift. Look, let me say this quickly, just as an aside. And I mentioned this in a video that I did a long time ago. I think it was maybe the first time that I touched on history on this channel. I stated that the people of ancient Kemet or ancient Egypt, they're like the Ugandans. They are the descendants of the people of Kemet. Okay? That's who the people of Kemet are today. They're located in Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda. They're known as the Nilotic peoples, like the Maasai, the Dinka, the Nuer. Those are the descendants of the people of Kemet. Not you American so-called black people. Let me throw that in there. You are not the descendants of the people of Kemet. And that is why you continuously make a mockery of yourselves trying to claim ancient Egypt or Kemet, and that's not you. But I'll be touching on that in another video.
He asked if we could say a prayer together as I was finishing up the Our Father. That's when he started touching me.
Well, that was that's what he was praying for. He was praying for a piece of ass. He said, "You in the Peace Corps, ain't you? Well, give me a piece of ass."
And I completely froze. I think I sat on that floor for probably just a half hour.
Look, in all seriousness, it's very unfortunate what happened to this young lady right here. But it's extremely important that people disavow themselves of a lot of delusional thinking. People like her, they go to these liberal colleges and universities and they believe that they're going to change the world and they're going to go all across the world and enlighten people. And many of these people don't want to be enlightened. They don't want to hear what you have to say. As I've already stated, they watch the American female on television and all they see is whore, whore, whore. That's what they see. And people like her don't grasp that. She thinks that she's going to go across the world and teach people a new way. They don't want to hear what she has to say. And unfortunately, because the American female has been so pampered and so coddled in the last 30 to 40 years, they learn things the hard way overseas.
Not knowing what to do, not knowing what to say.
In a letter this month, the Office of Special Counsel, or OSC, advised President Donald Trump the Peace Corps is not doing enough to protect its volunteers from...
I'm sure they're not doing enough. I'm sure they're not doing anything because it's not their intention to protect their volunteers. They actually like little things like that because that's how they gain the trust of the people, while they have many of their most likely low-level operatives just providing surveillance, just checking out what's going on with the indigenous people there. You know, just as an aside, when you look at the emblem for the Peace Corps, you see the dove. The dove represents peace, but the dove in antiquity always represented the mother goddess. Semiramis or Venus or Juno, as she was called, was given the title of the dove because the female member of the triune or the triumvirate, she was likened unto the Holy Spirit. That's where she got the name Juno from. For those of you brothers who read the scriptures, the term for dove in the Hebrew is is Yauna or Yawana. It just means the dove. That's it. And and that same word was transferred over into the Greek as Juno. As you brothers know, there's no J in the Hebrew or in the ancient languages. All right. Greek and Hebrew are very, very closely related. But whenever you see that image of the dove, at least on the left-hand side, is referencing the Mother Goddess. On the right-hand side is representing the Holy Spirit. The reason why they gave the Mother Goddess the emblem of the dove is because they wanted her to be representative of the Holy Spirit. That's really what the name Juno or the dove means. It means that she is associated with the air. Like when you read the scriptures and it tells you that it speaks about the prince of the power of the air. It's talking about the son of the Mother Goddess. Okay? That's what that's in reference to. Even the name Semiramis, it means the branch bearer. What is that in reference to? That's talking about the dove. Remember when Noah sent out the dove and it came back with the branch in its mouth, the olive branch, to symbolize that they had found land? That's what the name Semiramis means. So whenever you delve into the Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system, oftentimes the symbology that is used has double or even triple meanings. The names have double or even triple meanings. Like the name Dionysus, it just means the sin bearer, because that is what he was viewed as. He was viewed as the liberator, the person who was meant to lead mankind away from the oppression of having to worship and venerate the Most High. They didn't want to venerate the Most High. All right. But the name Juno or Dione in the Babylonian, that's where you get the name Dion from. Dion is another name for the Mother Goddess. But once again, whenever you see that image of the dove, it is in reference to the Mother Goddess. And just understand that on the roof of the Capitol building, they have a statue of the Mother Goddess. I believe the name is Libertas.
From sexual assault and called for specific reforms.
I feel like Peace Corps failed me every step of the way.
Volunteer Danae Smith was attacked while working in a remote Dominican Republic village.
Now you see that? Why would they have a young lady out there in the middle of a remote Dominican Republic village? Why would she not have understood that these would be the type of locations that she was going to go to? They're not going to pay her to have security, or they're not going to provide security for her. Once again, many of these younger females, they just believe that because they've been taught that they're equal, that they should not be aware of the dangers of going into environments where they can be victimized. That is the reason why a woman was supposed to be married. The husband provided protection for her, but because they want to be independent and run solo, unfortunately, these things happen. And I'm sure people out there are saying, well, that's no excuse. Well, hey, I live in the real world. I don't live in the world where things are supposed to be a certain way. I live in the world where things are a certain way. And that's how I'm able to adapt to what is, not what should be.
She reported it to the Peace Corps in 2015.
They told me that as a volunteer, it was my job to have been more proactive to prevent it from happening.
In other words, what they're saying is that you should not have allowed yourself to be alone with strange men in a dark area, in a dark road, in a desolate area. That's what they're telling you. In other words, you're just there to provide cover for some of our people. So you're collateral damage. It is what it is. That's what they're telling you.
Within a week, the Peace Corps sent her home. To date, we've heard from more than 24 former volunteers whose stories point to a troubling pattern. One the OSC wants to change. It's calling for better training for in-country Peace Corps employees because 16% of reported sexual assaults are committed by host family members or co-workers.
Wow, look at that. 16% of all reported sexual assaults were allegedly perpetrated by host family members or co-workers. So that means the people that these females are staying with are raping them, or their co-workers are raping them. Some of the males in the Peace Corps are raping these females because they feel like they can get away with it. Once again, the woman is beautiful when she's in her right mind. When you're not in your right mind, you feel like you can go anywhere and nothing can happen to you. That's not wisdom. You know, in a perfect world, a child should be able to walk down the street and talk to strangers, but we're not in a perfect world.
workers.
There were not appropriate boundaries. The person who attacked me was a fellow teacher. There was no training for him. There was no training for any of my fellow teachers at that school.
The Peace Corps says that kind of training is not required by law. The OSC wants stricter employee screening rules, noting often volunteers accused of sexual assault are able to resign, avoiding punishment and any mention of the allegations in their personnel files. One such volunteer was even rehired by the Peace Corps.
Wow, look at that. That's how you know that that organization is not on the up and up. How could you be so willy-nilly, so frivolous with your protocol, with, your organizational structure? It's obvious that they have no concern for the people that they're dispatching to these different lands because they have to provide a cover. Once again, when you see things like this that are so frivolously done on the exterior, that means that there's something insidious going on the interior. It's just, this obviously is just a cover, an umbrella for something else.
And citing a recent Peace Corps Inspector General report, OSC highlighted problems with the agency's response to a sexual assault. 14% of assaulted volunteers had to wait more than 4 weeks to get counseling, and some were limited in the number of sessions due to a misunderstanding of Peace Corps policy.
Yeah, they misunderstood the policy. They thought that the Peace Corps actually cared about them. The Peace Corps does not care about you. That's what they mean about misunderstanding. You actually believe that we were going to send you to these places and provide protection and support for you. You're the one who thought that you were going to change the world. The only people who think that they can change the world like that are people who don't understand the world. They don't understand culture. They don't understand the image that is pushed forth and propagated across the world about the people here in this country. Unfortunately for them, they truly don't. I cannot accentuate that enough. The people across the world, they view the American woman as a big whore. Just being real. I mean, it also transcends into Europe, but especially in America.
Let's see. Reith Miller was allowed only 6 sessions.
I was spiraling downwards, and I knew it, and I asked for more counseling. I called the doctor, and she said, we need to have a serious talk about whether you're fit to be a volunteer or not.
Well, you're obviously not fit to be a volunteer. You need professional help. You need to go see a psychiatrist or something like that, and just stick with that for as long as you need. You damn sure don't need to be out in the field acting as if you're going to give anybody advice or teach anyone any uplifting doctrines or philosophies or teachings or what have you. You need to piece your life back together and stay your ass in America. That's really what you need to do.
Or not.
Did you feel like they were blaming you for what was happening to you?
100%.
Of course they're blaming you. You're just a little fish in a very, very, very big pond, and you don't understand what's in the water.
Do you think the environment of the Peace Corps has improved in the 2.5 years?
Sadly, no.
Whistleblower Kelly Green was hired as the first Peace Corps victims advocate after Congress mandated reforms to how the agency responded to sexual assault cases in 2011. She says she was pushed out for trying to change the culture.
Now look at this. You have the heavyset Caucasian woman at the bottom throwing up the peace sign. I'm not saying that she's a worshiper of Pan, but who knows? I mean, really, who really knows? You never know what's going on with some of these people. You have the heavyset white woman at the bottom throwing up the peace sign. Then you have the Caucasian man sitting in the middle with a boy in between his legs. Let me say this very quickly. For every female who claims that she was the victim of sexual assault for doing work with the Peace Corps, there's probably 20 children and indigenous women who have been raped or sexually assaulted by members of the Peace Corps, and they certainly won't bring out that information. All right? Allegedly. But we all know how many of these people get down when they go overseas.
Culture. Her 2015 whistleblower complaint prompted the letter from the special counsel.
To continually hear on a recurring basis the same stories that follow the same theme shows that there's a real systemic problem within Peace Corps.
The Peace Corps tells CBS this morning it has made significant progress in...
Look at all these young females. They all just want to be a part of something. They say that they want to make a difference, quote unquote. But they really just want to go on an adventure and be able to come back and say, I did this and I did that. And they're putting themselves in very dangerous predicaments. Very dangerous.
Congress in recent years, having instituted more than 30 new policies aimed at reducing the risk of sexual assault to volunteers and doing a better job at responding to victims.
Members of Congress shouldn't have to get involved on this issue.
Congressman Ted Poe, who authored the 2011 Peace Corps reforms, began working on a new bill requiring the Peace Corps to do more to protect sexual assault victims after our initial report. That bill is now before Congress.
Oh, there goes the Capitol building with the Statue of Libertas on the top. Let me rewind it back a little bit.
After our initial report, that bill.
There it goes right there. The Statue of Libertas. I think that I spoke on that statue in a previous video. Can't remember which one. One of the Me Too videos.
That bill is now before Congress.
The Peace Corps should have been doing the right thing all along.
The Peace Corps should have been doing the right thing all along. That means making sure that every woman that goes overseas is wearing a chastity belt so she can't get raped. I mean, problem solved.
And coming down on the side of our Peace Corps volunteers, our angels abroad.
Megan Riethmiller says she's made progress since her assault and would even consider going back to the Peace Corps.
Yeah, she want to go back for seconds. I mean, come on, man. What type of dumb shit is this? The Ugandan priest raped you. He showed you his rod of iron. You know, he parted your Red Sea, and now you want to head on back over there. With your dumb ass.
Corps, even
I can imagine when she get back to Uganda, he's like, oh, back for more here. She's going to walk into the apartment. He's going to be playing the Ugandan version of Marvin Gaye.
Even though you left feeling like they were blaming you as a victim of sexual assault, you would go back and do it again.
If they change their policies and procedures.
Well, they're not going to change their policies and procedures, not for you. But you're just desperate to be quote-unquote cultured. You see her there? She has to be the star. She has to get in front of all the little indigenous African girls, so-called African girls, and be the star of the show with her African, quote-unquote, African garment on.
I would.
Megan says she did report the assault to Ugandan police, but no action was taken against.
They're not thinking about that bullshit. They're not thinking about that. They looked at her report. They said she probably wanted it. That's exactly what they said. All right? I'm just being real about it. They're not thinking about any of these American females that are members of the Peace Corps who act like they're coming abroad to assist the people. Their mentality is, we don't need your help. You're really only here to try to impose your culture on us. We have to allow you in because you're giving us foreign aid. That's their attitude. And in exchange for the foreign aid, America sends in the Peace Corps, and sprinkled in there are a couple of intelligence agents. Allegedly.
Against the priest. Part of Congressman Poe's legislation aims to hold foreign nationals more responsible for crimes against Peace Corps volunteers committed abroad. It does have bipartisan support, and the congressman says he is optimistic it can become law this year. The Peace Corps says it is in the process of responding to the OSC letter. Nora?
Great reporting there, Chris. Thank you so much. Law enforcement.
But anyway, that's the issue with the Peace Corps. We'll see if they change some of their protocol. I certainly doubt if they will. Hopefully those females have learned from those terrible situations that they were in. But I doubt it. Anyway, peace.